My name is Harold Whitman, and at 84 years old, I learned a painful truth about loneliness. Lonely people mistake attention for love very easily, especially elderly people, especially widowers, especially people who spend too many evenings sitting alone in silent houses filled with memories nobody else cares about anymore. My granddaughter ignored me for almost 9 years. No visits, no birthdays, no holidays. Then suddenly, after rumors spread about a new highway development near my farmland, she started calling every single week. Before I tell you how my own granddaughter tried to emotionally manipulate me into signing away property my family owned for generations, make sure to subscribe. Because this story isn't only about greed, it's about how desperately human beings want to feel loved even when they suspect the affection isn't real. I grew up on 200 acres outside Amarillo, Texas. Back then, the land wasn't worth much financially, just dry fields, wind dust, cattle, hard work. But to my father and grandfather, the ranch represented identity, legacy, survival. I spent my entire life there, born there, raised there, married there, buried my wife there. Every fence post carried memory. Every field carried history. My wife Eleanor and I raised 2 sons on that ranch, Michael and Dean. Michael stayed nearby. Dean left for Dallas the second he turned 18 and rarely looked back. At first, that hurt me deeply. But eventually, I accepted something difficult. Some children inherit attachment to family. Others inherit hunger for escape. Dean became successful financially. Very successful. Real estate, luxury developments, corporate investments, the kind of life magazines celebrate constantly. Meanwhile, Michael remained local. Simple life, simple business, simple values. Then tragedy hit. Michael died in a trucking accident at 47 years old. Just like that. One phone call. One rainy highway. Gone losing. A child changes the structure of your soul permanently. People talk about grief emotionally, but physically, it changes your breathing, your sleep, your heartbeat, everything. Michael left behind one daughter, Samantha, my granddaughter. When she was little, Samantha practically lived at the ranch. Fishing ponds, horseback riding, summer bonfires. She once told everyone she would never leave Grandpa's land. Then college happened. City life. New friends. New priorities. And gradually, calls became rare. Visits disappeared. At first, I told myself that was normal. Young people build lives. But eventually, years started passing. Entire years. No Thanksgiving visits. No Christmases. Nothing. I still sent birthday cards every year. Never missed one. Most went unanswered. That kind of silence hurts more than people admit publicly. Because elderly people become invisible gradually, not dramatically. Phone calls stop first. Then invitations. Then eventually people start discussing you mostly in past tense while you're still alive. After Eleanor died, the loneliness became unbearable sometimes. I'd wake at 5 a.m. out of habit expecting coffee already brewing in the kitchen. Then reality would hit all over again. The silence inside old houses can feel violent after losing someone you loved for decades. That's the kind of loneliness that makes elderly people vulnerable. And unfortunately, some people recognize vulnerability faster than others. 3 years ago, everything around the ranch changed. A major highway expansion project got approved nearby. Developers started buying land aggressively. Suddenly, my property value exploded almost overnight. What had once been dusty farmland now represented millions. Local rumors spread quickly, especially in small Texas towns. And strangely enough, about 2 months later, Samantha called unexpectedly. I still remember staring at my phone in shock. Her voice sounded warm, excited, emotional. "Grandpa, I miss you. Miss you." 2 simple words. And embarrassingly enough, I almost cried hearing them. That's how powerful loneliness becomes. Over the following months, Samantha started visiting constantly. Weekend trips, family dinners, long conversations on the porch. At first it felt wonderful, like getting part of my family back. She asked about old ranch stories, Michael, Eleanor, family history, things she hadn't cared about in years. And honestly, I wanted to believe her intentions were genuine so badly that I ignored warning signs repeatedly. Then subtle financial questions started appearing. What are developers offering around here? Have you thought about selling eventually? Do you have estate plans finalized? At first, the questions seemed harmless, practical even, but gradually the frequency increased. And deep down, something inside me became uneasy. One afternoon, while drinking sweet tea on the porch, Samantha casually said, "You know, Grandpa, maintaining all this land alone must be exhausting." Exhausting. Interesting word. Because concern and persuasion often sound identical initially. I shrugged carefully. "I manage." She smiled softly. But for how much longer? That sentence lingered in my mind for days afterward. Then came the introductions. Samantha suddenly brought her boyfriend Tyler to the ranch frequently. Tyler worked in commercial development. Coincidentally, or at least that's what Samantha claimed. Tyler asked endless questions about property boundaries, mineral rights, and county zoning changes. Far too informed for casual curiosity. One evening during dinner, Tyler casually mentioned how wealthy some landowners became after partnering with developers. Partnering. Another dangerous word. Because people rarely say take over directly. That night, for the first time, suspicion outweighed loneliness. I started paying attention differently afterward, and what I noticed hurt deeply. Samantha's warmth intensified whenever land conversations appeared. Her affection became strangely performative around legal discussions, and every visit somehow drifted back toward future planning. Future planning. Not family. Not memories. Assets. One afternoon, my longtime friend Earl stopped by unexpectedly. After Samantha left, Earl sat quietly beside me for several minutes before speaking. "You know, developers been asking around about your land for over a year now." I nodded slowly. Then Earl added something that changed everything. "Samantha's boyfriend met with 2 commercial buyers last month." My stomach dropped instantly. Because suddenly all the puzzle pieces aligned perfectly. The visits, the affection, the timing, the sudden interest in family. I felt physically sick. Not because of money, because for months I allowed myself to believe I mattered emotionally again. That realization humiliated me more than I can explain. Still, part of me desperately wanted another explanation. Then came the final betrayal. One evening, Samantha arrived carrying legal paperwork. Casually, almost cheerfully. "Tyler knows an attorney who could help simplify future inheritance issues," she explained. Simplify. There's that word again. The documents involved partial development rights and transfer structures, complicated enough that many elderly people might sign without fully understanding long-term consequences. I stared at the papers silently while Samantha kept talking. And honestly, I barely heard her anymore. Because suddenly I understood something devastating. She hadn't returned because she missed me. She returned because she discovered value attached to my existence. That realization broke my heart more completely than grief ever had. I looked at her quietly and asked one simple question. "If this land were worthless, would you still be here?" Silence. Long silence. Then Samantha looked away. That was answer enough. I didn't yell, didn't insult her, didn't create drama. Honestly, sadness felt heavier than anger. I simply folded the paperwork carefully and said, "Your grandmother spent 48 years teaching me that love should never arrive with contracts attached." Samantha started crying immediately. Real tears. But by then, trust already felt dead. Over the following weeks, painful truths emerged slowly. Samantha had massive student debt. Tyler pressured her constantly about the land opportunity. And gradually, emotional manipulation became normalized between them. That explanation softened my anger slightly. But not my disappointment. Because desperation may explain betrayal, it does not erase it. For several months afterward, we barely spoke. Then something unexpected happened. A tornado ripped through Amarillo County during spring storm season. Multiple homes destroyed. Families displaced. Including Samantha and Tyler's apartment complex. For the first time in years, Samantha arrived at the ranch without discussing money once. No contracts. No development plans. No inheritance conversations. Just fear, exhaustion, and vulnerability. I let them stay temporarily, not because trust fully returned, because family becomes complicated after enough pain. One evening during cleanup efforts after the storm, Samantha quietly admitted something heartbreaking. When Dad died, I stopped associating the ranch with love. I associated it with grief. That sentence changed everything. Apparently, after Michael's death, avoiding me became emotionally easier than confronting shared pain. Distance became habit. Then eventually, shame. And shame makes reconnection difficult even when love still exists underneath it. Tyler eventually apologized too. Genuinely. Not performative. Real accountability. Turns out, financial desperation and ambition distorted both of them slowly over time. Today, the ranch remains in the family, protected permanently through conservation agreements and family trusts. Samantha visits regularly now. Not perfectly, but honestly. And every evening when we sit on the porch watching Texas sunsets together, I remember something Eleanor once told me decades ago. The people who return for the wrong reasons sometimes stay long enough to rediscover the right ones. At the time, I never understood what she meant. Now I finally do. Have you ever questioned whether someone truly loved you or simply needed something from you? Tell me in the comments below. And if this story touched you, please like and subscribe. Because sometimes loneliness makes people vulnerable, but forgiveness still leaves room for families to heal when honesty finally arrives.